Hope everybody's doing well. Obviously, still disappointed by our loss last Friday at Houston. I thought the effort was there going back and watching the film, just the overall lack of execution. And like I said, post game, so much of that came down to third downs, right? With what we did offensively, it was poor being 2 of 14, and then defensively allowing Houston to be 8 of 15. I think those are what hurt us in that game. We learned from it. Our players watched it and had the right mindset and the right approach. And they're excited about the week ahead for Tulane, understanding what's at stake. We fully understand it. Doesn't need to be talked about. There's a lot of pride in this program. Guys are still playing hard. They still care. And looking forward to a great matchup this Saturday versus a Tulane team that's played a lot of close opponents close. We know that we're going to get everything they have.
All right, Evan, and then Frank.
Hey, Ryan.
Hold on one second. I got to turn you up. I can't hear anything. Hold on.
No problem.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Seth talked to us post game about basically comparing this to almost like a playoff game atmosphere. Would you say that's kind of the mood of what you feel from the guys?
Yeah, look, I think we've talked about every game being just as important as the next and having a heightened sense of awareness. I did talk about our guys playing with a sense of urgency and having a sense of urgency this week in practice. I do it every week, but the guys were bright-eyed sometimes after defeat, right? It's hard to get them dialed in and all those things, but they were locked in and understanding of what's at stake. We're not going to be a dead horse because, like I think you may have even asked post game, right? We don't want them playing scared or playing. We know we got to win this game, but they got to go out and just play football. And so if for Seth's mind, if he thinks of it as like a playoff game, that's great. For our seniors, for a lot of these guys, the last time they ever played in the Liberty Bowl, whatever that looks like to them, whatever helps their preparation more than anything. Because again, it hadn't been for lack of out there going out and playing hard. It's just being the lack of execution. So if there's things we can do during the week that will help us, so Saturday night we can play a little bit better, I'm all for it.
So do you feel like at this point, as far as talking to them about this game, because you said that it's not, you don't want to, every game is important, but is it recognizing that this game is a little bit more important just because of what is at stake with obviously being 500, winning the last game at home, and obviously, bowl eligibility?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I did talk to them about the importance of this game and they know it. And like I said, it's without being a dead horse that they have that full understanding. And so I said, I ask for this every week, but now more than ever, need your absolute best. And whether that means getting 20 more minutes of sleep, right? Studying film for 20 more minutes, getting to the building 20 minutes earlier, whatever that looks like, their absolute best, and it's got to be it every single day. We can't just say, okay, well, today's going to be my best off day ever. I've got to come and get 15 more minutes of treatment. It's got to be consistent throughout the rest of the week, and then for 4 quarters or however long it takes us to play the game. So they know it, and I'm just going to continue to. I don't need to go out there and say, okay, guys, here's the situation. They have a full understanding.
Thanks,
Frank, and then Mark.
Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Good, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing all right. In a situation like this, how much more important is the leadership of your veteran players in their locker room?
Well, I think, so in our team meeting, I actually had our seniors stand up and just say, look, whatever it is, it's in your mindset. Understand that you're playing for these guys. And I want our team to, because we got a lot of freshmen playing. I want them to understand, a lot of the youth to understand, right? You're just not only playing for the University of Memphis and for trying to get a win, but now you're playing for these seniors. But the leadership's been there, right? We got a lot of those guys that have played a lot of football for us here at Memphis. And I think those vets are going to step up and understand to hold the guys accountable. That's why I say, so we can talk about everybody being a little bit better this week and pushing ourselves and being held accountable. But unless those vets do it themselves and hold the guys accountable, it's harder and harder. But they've been on top of it the whole time. Like I said, it's, our issues don't come from some of lack of leadership from the team or want to or a work ethic. It's, just simple things that, whether it's ball security, not being able to make the throw, not being able to hold up protection, all those things. But yeah, our veteran leadership is going to be huge this week, and they've been fantastic all season.
I know during the season, after every game, you guys go and evaluate the goods and positives from each game. With this game being basically a win or go home situation, and it being the last game of the season, does that change on how you guys, I guess, dissect the last game, or is it still pretty normal from what you guys have been doing for the whole rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, look, the coaching staff's hard at work game planning for this one, and then that you're talking about in the preparation leading up to this game.
Well, the reviewing from the previous game.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's we reviewed it just as much as we could, and you got to learn from that, right? We, obviously having it on a Friday night, we had that, really an extra half a day, however you look at it, by the time we got back. But yeah, we reviewed it and learned from it and did all those things, but it didn't change the way we do that.
And then with the status of Calvin, is there any update on terms of just how he's doing and how he's feeling?
Yeah, he seems to be feeling okay. Again, the biggest thing, like I've said all along, is as long as there's no further risk of injury, he's day to day. Like I said, the young man continues to push through. I'm sure he's in pain, and he was limited. He's been a limited practice participant. He has yet to be a full-go practice participant in over a month. But he cares so much, and this program means so much to him that he goes out there and battles. I'm sure he is in some pain, but it's a day-to-day deal with him.
Thank you, Ryan.
Mark and then Brian.
Hey, Ryan. In terms of the getting bowl eligible, practically for the program, like what does it mean to make a bowl in terms of like the extra work you get to do, the practices, that game? And so I guess practically and then emotionally, what does making a bowl mean for a program when you've been a part of it here over the past few years?
Yeah, first off, that needs to be our minimum standard here, Mark. And I'll be the first to admit, we've got to be better than we are this year. So that's a minimum standard, but it's huge, right? You talk about the extra practices, and with us having so many young guys playing and so many young guys on our roster, it's great because now all of a sudden you look at these extra practices, right? Whether you're playing a bowl game on December 16th or a bowl game on January 6th, you find a way usually to get a couple of weeks of practice. And that's so beneficial because, now all of a sudden, and I'm not saying the guys are dialed in, but a lot of times you get a chance even after, right? If the vets get a 16-period practice, now you get these young guys out there for 5 more, maybe 20 more minutes just to work on some individual things. And a lot of times that carries over. It provides great motivation. You talked about, what does it do from a mindset also? Like, hey, you get a chance to get a bowl win. I think it parlays into what you can do in the offseason. It builds excitement and recruiting, all those things. And so it's important, from preparation, from all those things. Plus, with us having some of these super seniors, the proper way to send them out the right way.
And then Tulane, this is a team that gave you guys trouble last year. I don't know how similar in terms of personnel they are, but they play a unique style. And like you said, they've played a lot of close games and they're coming off a big win. What is it about that Tulane and what they do down there that is problematic for lots of teams?
Yeah, they play really hard. They got some good players. They're well coached. All those things, right? I've been a part of 2 games where we got our butts whipped down in New Orleans. One was 4 years ago, and one was last year, or 3 years ago and last year. So they do things the right way. They've got a lot of talent. They're able to run the ball. Obviously, their offense coordinator Chip Long. Him and I have a long relationship from our time. People forget he was an offensive coordinator our first year here. So you see some similarities in what they're trying to do offensively. Their special teams has been very, very sound. And so, and then now obviously a new defense coordinator, and they're doing a lot of different things. They don't, kind of similar to a lot of these teams, they're lining up and you're seeing different things every snap, from a 3-down front to a 4-down over, under, different blitz packages. They've done a nice job just, being able to disguise things. And I think that's what's happened. You look, and I think, they've had whatever it's been, 4 games that have all been decided by a touchdown or less. I think they were with 5 points of Oklahoma, and they've gone through some adversity early in the year dealing with the hurricane stuff. But, we know it's going to be like a lot of these conference games, tooth and nail, and we got to find a way.
Thanks.
Brian, then Evan.
Hey, Coach. Couple of questions from me. The first one, two players that was missing last week, Brandon Thomas and Isaac Ellis. Are they still day to day, or can we get an update on them?
Both still day to day. The only guy that I know for a fact that won't be is out for the rest of the year is John Cartwright. He's been, sometimes he didn't make the travel roster this past week, but he's done for the year with an injury. So that's the only one. The rest of the guys are day to day.
Okay, and last question for me is, I'm not sure with this group of seniors, I can't remember if you directly recruited any of them, but you've been around them for the past 4 or 5 years. Just if you could talk about their growth from the time they first come on campus till now.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a short story on like a guy like Jacoby Francis, right? When Jacoby got here, he was an immature freshman that thought he had all the answers, kind of wanted to do things his own way, wasn't really bought in to the culture that we had here, and to the point where I remember, the defense staff had to have discussions to see a guy that we want to keep on our roster and keep going. And he wasn't a bad kid, didn't do anything off the field. It was just the maturation process. And he's a young man that has matured every single year and grown every single year. And now to playing at a really high level in the field, he's one of our leaders, does everything the right way. And I'm not saying he was ever a bad kid, but just to see his growth, his maturation process has been absolutely phenomenal. And you get guys like JJ Russell, right, who dealt with some adversity early in his career with an injury, who's asked like Sam, Mike, Jack, and Will, who's had a different linebacker coach, right? You talk about that. Then think about him and Thomas Pickens. They've had a different linebacker coach every single year they've been at Memphis. And their growth, and to be able to see that. And they just, what they meant is they understand, what it takes. They understand what we've had before. I showed pictures in the training camp of what our facilities used to look like, even when I first got here. Most of these guys don't even know what the AOB stands for, right? Where our old offices used to be. And just trying to kind of show them how far we've come and how grateful we are. And those guys all understand it. The one thing is they've been phenomenal with their buy-in. And, it's, as you guys know, sometimes I get emotional. I'll be one of those when those senior, especially those super seniors, have the opportunity to be honored, and rightfully so. This Saturday night, it's just, you're going to think about all the things they've done and meant for this program. You got a guy like John Tate, right? Came off an Achilles injury. The battle back who lost a bunch of weight, who looks right, he's playing really hard. You just got all the named guys, right? Dylan Parham. I think about Dylan Parham, who came here as really, I think we were his only offer out of high school, who was really a high school fullback, and then came here as a tight end. The tight end coach didn't want him after a month. They moved to a D-line. The D-line coach didn't want him after 4 months. Came in as a little pup, weighed 256 pounds in the O-line room, and was a 2-year starter at left guard, and then a starter at right tackle, and he's now starting at right guard. He's going to be a high draft pick. And then you want to talk about development of a player, right? And Dylan Parham's now going to be going to Senior Bowl. Calvin Austin, a walk-on, right? I remember his big game versus Houston a couple years ago, where I was like, this guy can be a scholarship type player for us. Second year ever on scholarship here at Memphis, right? Grew up right down the street at Harding. Dad's a cop in town. You talk about his story. You want to talk about development of a player. Think about this. I think a great story is our two Senior Bowl guys. One was a walk-on, and the other was this on his third position in his 4th year ever playing offensive line. So credit to the coaches. I don't take any of the credit, but for developing these guys. A lot of these other Senior Bowl guys, are 4 or 5-star guys coming from these blue blood programs. So it's just neat to see all those guys. I could tell a story about each one if we had enough time. But yeah, as you can tell, Brian, I'm pretty giddy about all these guys, and they mean the world to me in this program.
Evan, and then we'll wrap up with Frank.
Ryan, speaking of Calvin, just kind of with his status, obviously, we noticed the last 2 games, you've been very careful with his reps, obviously. What's the process actually for deciding kind of how much he plays? Because he's not practicing. We saw him limping after that big catch he made against Houston. What's kind of the process of figuring out how much he will play, and also weighing the fact that he has a potential future to think of as well too?
Yeah. So the biggest thing to start with is every week we check with the doctor, and there's no further damage that can be caused. So that's the biggest thing, right? I would never risk his Calvin, any young man. I would never risk their future, whatever it may be, earnings potential, anything that could harm them or put them in harm's way. And really, it's talking with Calvin, it's every week, hey, you tell us how you feel. And if he came before you talk about the East Carolina game, right? The first play, and then, it was a little bit banged up. And so then we held him for a while. And then if he feels like it calms back down, and feels like he can go back out there, then he does. And when nobody's ever forced him, he kind of gives you the look, says, I'm good to go. I didn't think he would jump in the very first play of this game, but we trust him. He's smart enough. Like I said, he's so engaged at practice, Evan. He knows everybody's position, what everybody's supposed to be doing. And so that's where we don't feel like we're missing. Obviously, he'd probably imagine how good he'd be healthy and be able to go through practices. And so a lot of it is, how he's feeling, and we trust him, and he's mature enough to, where he feels comfortable to go in the game, that we're happy to put him in there because we know what a difference maker he can be.
And as a coaching staff, how much of that is also just saying, hey, he may feel ready, but if something is going wrong, like obviously that catch I keep thinking about where he was clearly limping in the next play, he could barely get over to where the ball was. How much as a coaching staff do you say, even if he feels good, you step in and say, hey, we're going to hold you out a little bit? Is that kind of part of the equation too?
Yeah. I mean, if it looks like he's in pain, or if it looks like he's going to be detrimental to himself, we absolutely do. I mean, there's, as long as we're not going tempo, or the opportunity to get him off the field, if he looks like he is limping, we'll do that. And he's great about communicating with us. I mean, there's times where he waved us off and said, no, I'm good, but we're obviously, and he's smart enough, mature enough, but we'll also continue to make sure that we're monitoring that as best we can.
All right, last for me, Javon Ivory, any update on his status?
Day to day.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ryan, you mentioned, Chip Long. I know most of the focus is obviously all about this game, but, how does it feel being able to kind of go against him head to head and seeing him before and after the game?
Yeah, Chip's an old friend of mine. Him and I remember an old line clinic many moons ago. Him and I were talking on just like old coaches do, talking on a bar napkin, going diagramming plays and blocking things up. And in fact, it's interesting because I got to see him run that play last week that him and I talked about probably 15 years ago. Look, he's had a lot of success. This profession's so funny, right? There's been, in my time here, we've seen a lot of coaches come and go, and a lot are having success, and a lot do it the right way. And a lot of guys are different places, even, a few times. But Chip's a great coach. He's had a lot of success. I know he's doing some of that stuff offensively. The good news is if he's listening, at least he'll know that I'll know every single one of his plays prior to him running them. So I hope he gets changing up the signals, because I'm coming for him.
You get a kick out of seeing that play 15 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure he'll be looking where I see I'm either on the sideline to make sure I'm not, getting all his plays down before they get run, because formationally, all that stuff. Look, he's had a lot of success. He's changed a lot of stuff, but some of the stuff that we both run, is just some of the similar trees that we both come from.